Ayaan had always been a planner. Spreadsheets, calendars, alarms for everything except Salah. He had the life many dreamed of. A solid job in a top firm, his own apartment in the city, and a wedding planned for December with a girl he thought was perfect. He wasn't reckless. He didn't party, didn't drink, didn't go clubbing. But when it came to prayer, it was always, when I have time. Jummah? He made time. Eid? He showed up clean and fresh. But the 5 daily prayers? Most days, they just didn't happen. He'd always say the same line, Allah knows what's in my heart. But the truth was, he hadn't really felt his heart in a long time. His younger brother Hamza was the opposite. A little quiet, a little awkward, but soft-hearted, steady, the kind of person who always moved in the direction of Allah, even when no one was watching. Come to the Masjid, bro, he'd say, smiling. I'll even buy you breakfast after Fajr. Ayaan would smirk. You're crazy, man. Who even wakes up at that time on a weekend? But Hamza never stopped inviting. Never judged, never argued. He just kept showing up. For Allah, for prayer, for his brother. Then came the Friday night. It was cold, raining lightly. Ayaan had just come home from dinner with his fiancée. They were talking about wedding venues and cake flavors. His phone buzzed. It was Hamza. Fajr tomorrow? Another invite. Ayaan chuckled, typing, sleep is sunnah too, remember? Hamza replied with a heart emoji. I'll make dua for you, bro. Ayaan tossed his phone aside and sank into bed, tired but content. He had no idea that would be the last message he'd ever get from him. 6:28 a.m. The phone rang again. He ignored it, still half asleep, but then it rang again and again. He picked up. It was Zara, his fiancée. Her voice was shaking. Ayaan, your brother, there was an accident. He was hit. They think he was on his way to the masjid. His heart dropped. He couldn't process it. What do you mean they think? She was crying now. The hospital. Just come, please. The drive was a blur. He couldn't feel his hands. Every second was a knife in his chest. Every red light felt like betrayal. When he arrived, a nurse walked him in. Then a doctor came, calm, measured. Ayaan, I'm sorry. He didn't make it. Just like that. 3 words, and his world shattered. He wasn't just a brother. He was Ayaan's best friend, the only one who truly knew him, the only one who never gave up on him even spiritually. Now, the one who had been trying to lead him back to Allah was gone, killed by a drunk driver, early morning, just outside the masjid, with his prayer mat still in his backpack. At the janazah, Ayaan stood there frozen, his body there but his soul somewhere else. He watched strangers line up to pray for his brother. Tears rolled down faces he didn't even recognize. People who knew Hamza from the masjid, from Quran classes, from the soup kitchen he volunteered at quietly. They kept saying things like, your brother used to wake us all up for Fajr in our building. He helped my dad fix his car and refused any money. He used to leave little sticky notes with du'as on people's lockers. Ayaan stood there, stunned. His brother had been living a whole life of good while he was busy chasing success and sleep. That night, Ayaan couldn't close his eyes. He sat in Hamza's room, staring at his prayer rug. It still smelled like him. There was a small notebook beside it. He opened it. Inside, in neat handwriting, Hamza had written, Ya Allah, guide my brother back to you. Let him taste the sweetness of Salah like I do. Ayaan broke. He wept, for the years wasted, for the prayers missed, for every Fajr where his brother was calling him not just to the masjid, but to salvation. He didn't sleep that night. Before Fajr, he made wudu, hands shaking. He walked to the masjid, alone, the same path his brother took every day. He sat at the back, quiet, broken. When the Ayaan echoed through the walls, he felt it in his bones. And when he stood for prayer, for the first time in years, he didn't feel empty. He felt seen. He felt small. He felt loved. That became his turning point. He didn't change overnight, but something inside had shifted. He started with Fajr. just Fajr. Then came Maghrib, then Dur. Bit by bit, he began to build a house with his prayers. And every time he felt lazy, he'd whisper, "One missed prayer, and everything fell apart." Years passed. Ayaan eventually got married, had a son. He named him Hamza. Every morning, he'd wake his little boy before school. They'd pray Fajr together, side by side. And after each Salah, he'd raise his hands and say, "Ya Allah, thank you for not giving up on me. And thank you for giving me a brother who never did either." Did this story move you? Drop a moon emoji in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true Islamic stories every single week.